92 murders so far this year, and no sign it's going to get better. That's our story tonight.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
The year is only 60 days old. During that time, there have now been 92 homicides here in the District of Columbia. The 92nd occurred this evening. Last year, 60 to 80% of the murders in the nation's capital were listed as drug-related. This is a city which has one of the toughest gun control laws in the nation, a city which has 4,000 of its own police and a total of 14,000 federal law enforcement officers. FBI agents, Capitol Police, Secret Service, Park Police, Drug Enforcement agents, Supreme Court Police, Library of Congress Police. Of course, the homicides here in D.C. don't happen at the Library of Congress, or at the Supreme Court, or at the U.S. Senate, or the White House, or at the embassies, which are guarded by the uniformed branch of the Secret Service. The murders, almost all of them, are committed in the black ghettos of Washington, which are like a combat zone, as alien to most white Washingtonians as Beirut or San Salvador. Here's John Martin.
I just pray constantly for all the children. I do. God has helped them because they're trying to destroy themselves.
Got approximately 33-year-old black male. He's been shot 3 times. That's shot 3 times.
It's like living in a war zone. You hear gunfire every night. We're scared.
The saying in Washington these days is that D.C. doesn't stand for District of Columbia, but for Dodge City.
All of us are appalled. We're agonizing about it. We don't like the fact that we had 372 murders last year.
It's as if the White House and the Capitol were positioned on the streets of the Old West. These dots are where the fatal gunfights took place in the last year, most of them related to the sale of drugs. Unlike Dodge City, many of them involved only a single gun in the hands of an assassin, often a drug merchant trying to claim territory. It's gotten so worrisome that some of the district's daily workers have been complaining to the country.
Mr. Speaker, the state of affairs in our nation's capital city is a national disgrace. It's an international embarrassment and dishonors the name of the first President, George Washington.
Even the district's best-known resident has expressed exasperation.
Certainly in Washington, we have a responsibility as a federal city, and a lot of the funds obviously come from the federal government, but there isn't any easy answer to that.
92 people have been murdered in Washington since the first of the year. That's 38 more than the same time a year ago. A year in which murderers killed 372 people, the all-time high. Washington is now the murder capital of America, and possibly the drug capital, too. The district has about 625,000 residents. Every year, it arrests about 21 drug suspects for every 1,000 residents. In New York, the number is only 12 per 1,000. In Los Angeles, it is 10 per 1,000. Many suspects are from Washington's black school-age population.
We have to say that the school system has failed in many instances, especially when you have a 55% dropout rate, and that is happening in the junior high school, and those individuals are not moving into the world of work or into college.
Mr. Lockridge and others also blame the collapse of families, the failure of churches, and the ethics of the white business community, which young blacks want to emulate. Instead of making $4 an hour at McDonald's, they say, they can make $4,000 a week selling drugs. What many blacks see in Washington is something tourists never notice. 2 cities, poor black sections, and affluent white enclaves.
It's like one nigga, teach 2 niggas, teach 4 niggas, teach more niggas. That's a go, nigga. Hey, big up.
This is where the majority of whites live, with relatively fewer of the murders. And here is where most blacks live, with most of the murders.
Basically, when we talk about who's dying in these drug shootings, you're talking about young people, you're talking about young black people, you're talking about guys in their late teens, early 20s.
Juan Williams covers urban affairs for the Washington Post magazine.
They can see the people have the fancy cars, have nice clothes, they can see the Kennedy Center, you can see fantastic things like Redskins football that they can't get into, and they want it. and they want it fast, and they're going to get it somehow. And I think that it sort of breeds a level of desperation. I'll do whatever the hell I have to do to make it, and the fastest way out right now is drugs.
The fact that the murder capital of the country is also the political capital suggests how little power the federal government has exerted so far. But that may change. Some local politicians are asking for federal military help.
The National Guard could bring in persons or military police in jeeps and patrol those areas where we know they're heavily fortified and insist that they turn in those guns.
The city has declared a crime emergency. It is planning to shift 450 officers from the wealthier districts where crime is low to the tougher sections where murders are high. As part of the shift, the police chief is expected to move some officers from desk jobs to street patrols 1 day a week. Ironically, say critics, the city is reversing its policies. In recent years, police budgets and resources have been cut back from a high of 5,100 officers in 1968 to barely 4,000 now. The police chief says the city needs at least 700 more officers. The mayor says there isn't enough money to hire them. At the same time, the mayor's personal life has been part of the problem. Critics say he sets a bad example. A personal friend, Karen Johnson, was convicted of selling drugs. Recently, the mayor went to a downtown hotel to visit a suspected drug user. He said he did not know the man was a suspect or a drug user. Mayor Barry has denied he uses drugs, but recently one of the mayor's most bitter critics, the publisher of a business magazine, raised the issue in a startling way.
I'm convinced he's a drug addict.
How?
I did cocaine, as most of the people that I knew did until a few years ago. Having done the drug, you recognize the symptoms.
I don't like drug dealers. They're the scourge of the earth. And I think it starts with oneself, being drug-free as I am.
Barry also insists he is not a bad example for the city's young people.
They have a lot of respect for me. Everywhere I go, even the young drug dealers, when I'm out walking, they'll come up to me and say, Mr. Mayor, I'm glad you cleaned up this place, glad you cleaned up this area. As you stop selling dope, we can do it better.
Washington is trying to do it better. Devout Muslims patrolling unsafe areas. Residents planning a march by 10,000 people in April. The city council trying to curfew teenagers. The mayor trying to keep more suspects in jail before trial and send them away longer after conviction if they deal in drugs and use firearms. A city council member, Nadine Winter, was reportedly warned not to push too hard against the drug merchants. But the mayor says the community can't hang back in fear.
Danger should not be the deterrent. It should be the willpower to go and stand up to these thugs and get them out of our neighborhoods.
Where will it end? A university study group accurately predicted last year's record number of homicides. Based on a new study, it says more than 600 men, women, and children will be murdered here this year. This is John Martin for Nightline in Washington.
When we come back, we'll talk with D.C. City Council member Nadine Winter, who represents one of the worst crime-infested areas in the district.